Am I right when I talk about how most people lose on options? I don't know if you were on when I was talking about a hedge fund friend of mine who basically, he goes long short. He was kind of wrong on the overall market, but the worst part about it is that he lost more than he needed to because of the way he was losing money on options.
Yeah, and you've got to be very careful. I mean, one of the things that we talk about all the time, Oliver, and you know this, you've been around John and myself for a very long time, and
Yeah,
we
I learned a
love
lot.
having you as a guy who covers this stuff. But the reality is the education level of understanding options and what your risks really are. And I think even people that are outstanding and pros and everything else can make mistakes at times where they leverage
Oh
themselves
yeah.
into a position where they actually aren't really in doing the things that are disciplined things that you need to do when you're looking at these options. I heard you guys talk about the volatility index. I will say this. Isn't it interesting how we pop up to 20 and we cannot sustain above 20? We've popped
Yeah.
up there the last couple of weeks. We hit 20, we pull back. We hit 20, we pull back. So I think that's a little bit of a sign of, hey, look, there's some nervousness out there, but it's still just nervousness. It's not scared right now. And I think that's a big point on what we're seeing right now within the markets themselves.
I agree. Noel even said he expects the regime for vol to stay under 20. Do you agree with that?
I do. I think that there's always that possibility. We never know what the news could be that could get this thing up above 20 that could be sustainable. But as of right now, with the news that we've got, I would say that, yeah, this is a situation where it pops up there and then suddenly we see the selling come in and that pulls that volatility back onto the levels of as low as 16 or 17. But we've been hovering around 18, so why don't we middle it and just say 18 is about the new volatility where it was 16 or 17 at the early parts of this past month in October. So interesting to see
fair.
how volatility is moving. Yeah, I think it's a fair
I think
level.
it's a trade a lot of people will make. Happy to,
Yeah.
maybe to slow down some of the extremes of the froth, like that
Right.
never hurts to just take a little bit off the top.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. And that is part of the discipline that goes along with trading options. It's why people that are trading options have got to be disciplined. You've got a little bit more leeway when you're trading stocks, but I think when you're in the options world, you're at the CBOE, you understand it. I mean, when you're
Yeah.
in the options world, there are a lot more risks that come with that, and you've just got to understand
That's
that.
the reason there's edge, by the way, as you know,
That's
right?
right.
That's what's great. If you got to learn something, that means there could be edge there, right? You go sit down poker table you never played before, you're going to get smoked if you're
Right.
anywhere worth playing. So
Yes.
with the risks comes the edge, obviously, and I think that for a lot of people they bleed out because for some of them it actually makes sense if they've got a ton of stock and they just got this massive nest egg.
Right.
Let's say you've been working for NVDA or one of these big tech companies. This is a very real thing. These people gotta protect their wealth and it's very concentrated. So for them, if they want to do something that's just very simple, either sell call or even just buy puts if they bleed out, they don't mind, right? Because what's to them is they just gotta have that baseline. That's why some people just go, just give me the buffer fund or whatever. I don't need anything fancy.
Right. Well, and if
But you and I, that's not how we're gonna trade.
Oh, we're not gonna. But there are times where I think it makes a heck of a lot of sense. You own an NVIDIA, for instance, and you've got a nice position in there. You've had a big run to the upside. I don't see anything wrong with doing something where you do buy a downside put for a little bit of protection. Maybe you sell an upside call to be able to give yourself a little less cost when it comes to that put that you're buying. And if it's to the upside, they'll probably hit that volatility as it's going to the upside. And then you just have to make a decision. When do you want to buy back what you sold? So there's a lot of different ways that I think you can move around and put yourself into different positions in the market that we're in right now. By the way, we were talking about NVIDIA. It's pretty interesting. We had
I got it up right now. We're looking at the chart, 190.
Yeah, and we've had a pretty big option trade not too many minutes ago, really, quite frankly, today, where they're moving out of November, they're moving out to December, they're moving from the 195s, they're going up to the 220s. Somebody out there has gotten a little bit bullish. They're taking off a profitable trade already, and they're looking for even more into the future, all the way out to December, though. So things can happen a lot with this whole month of November, but as they get closer and closer to December, they're looking for some positives that's going to get it to the upside. Maybe that's going to be earnings itself. I don't know. Earnings are on the 29th. So this roll that we are seeing going on today, that's somebody who's taking a little bit of that risk off, and they still want to be in NVIDIA for the long term, so they're out there to December.
Yeah, I'm with that. I think that makes sense, frankly. I had a conversation with my brother a couple of weeks ago, and as the market was kind of starting to get hit, and we were talking about it, and I said, look, if you want to be in the market, it's basically you can get kind of the semis offer this really nice sweet spot between beta because they are moving more than the market, but then they're also directly in the best earnings quartile as well. So it's like, you kind of get like your core equity portfolio in a way that I think is symptomatic of this very concentrated style of market we're getting with AI. But it works, right? It makes some sense because even though you get beta with it, these are the companies that are really changing the world.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting. I was just flying down here to South Carolina, where I am right now, with a gentleman who was coming down here to check out the nuclear plants. I mean, that's a big part of it. And we had a long discussion as we were flying because I think he'd be a smart guy to ask. So I sat next to this gentleman. We had a great time talking about, hey, what is it really like? What is it in the energy world? What does this look like? And he was saying, hey, look, the demand is there. The data centers are demanding that much more. AI is demanding that much more. It's very, very big, but you can only get those things going in a certain pace, and it takes some time. It takes plenty of time. So this is something that I think is going to play out for a much longer period of time than a lot of people are projecting right now, because if you're going to build these nuclear energy spots, I mean, we're talking about, well, they'll say it's 5 years, it's going to cost X. Well, the reality is it takes closer to 8 or 10 years, and it's going to cost 3X. So I think people just have to understand that with this demand, it's very difficult to keep up with that demand. And I think that's something that people really have to understand much better.
Okay. Pete, that's well said. I got AMD up right now, and your brother did point out when we had him on earlier this week that there was some put buying down there. Day after, it looked good. It looked like we were going to ramp, but now those put buyers are looking like they're the ones getting paid. Are you watching this?
Yeah, those put buyers did pretty well with that stock. It immediately was down, about 5% the other day when they came out with their earnings and so forth.
Okay, that's right. They did the U-turn.
Yeah, and it did that U-turn. And I'll tell you, it was interesting because, it made a lot of sense to me why it made the U-turn. I actually didn't understand where it was coming from, that the stock was going down. But nonetheless, with those put buyers, if they reacted the way they needed to early enough, they could come away with a pretty decent amount of money on that one. And look at this follow through that we're having. So I think it's a pretty interesting thing to just kind of keep an eye. I think the options world continues to be very strong. I was just in front of a bunch of people from Clemson University talking about, hey, look, there's a lot going on in this world, but if you want to really be in the power world, it's where Oliver's is right now at the CBOE, because options are absolutely incredible. I mean, the fact that when I got in the business, there were 750,000 per day, and now we're at 64 million a day. I think that gives you a little bit of an idea of where the true growth is right now in the trading world, and it's absolutely options.
Absolutely. Amen. So that's true. When looking at the chart for AMD, the general pullback, so the put buyers are getting paid. Here's what I'll say is the catch to it all for the semi stuff is that if it ever breaks, then, market's going to get hammered. There's not a lot else we got going for us in terms of earnings growth right now. And people will argue, that there's signs of weakness in the economy for jobs. But guess what? We don't know if they don't print any numbers. So right. That's the other thing. We were kind of debating earlier whether or not the Supreme Court stuff is weighing in on this at all, because look, call me crazy, Pete, but I was saying the stocks are up a ton since we started tariffs, so I don't know, that's supposed to mean tariffs are bad? It seems like the stock market maybe said tariffs are good, and now if we're going to try and shoot them down or whatever, then maybe the market doesn't like that. I'm just trying to follow the logic here, seriously, it's wild to me.
No, I think you're right. I mean, that's exactly what you're looking at. I mean, you just take a look at the charts themselves, and it speaks for exactly what you're talking about right now.
How about the market exploded at first, but then months later, we're still up a ton. So apparently, even if it's AI, it means we could afford to maybe push people around. I don't know, I don't have the explanation. I'm not the political scientist, but the market's up a bunch since tariffs.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I mean, not just a huge bunch. Just absolutely an amazing run to the upside. And the one thing I'd push back on you a little bit would be it's not just the tech side of earnings, though. I mean, the earnings themselves have been absolutely extraordinary just about everywhere you look. I mean, it's been incredible to me. And I think a lot of the reason that you and I would understand better than a lot of people is we're willing to be boots on the ground. We go places, we see things, and we actually take that information into our heads. Because I can tell you this, how many times have I gone, for instance, to a Walmart and seen us absolutely packed with cars, an incredible amount. And I'm seeing that more and more and more with restaurants and everything else. So there's a lot of things out there that are telling us all the negatives, but I'm seeing a heck of a lot of positives, which is why I think we were hitting these record highs almost every single week, almost every single day. It's been extraordinary, to be honest.
It's been extraordinary.
Yeah.
It's been extraordinary. Pete, before we took, in the first 15 episodes, you and I left our Kalshi conversation, I think, about with the government shutdown. I was wrong on that one. I don't know if you remember, but I was like, this thing's not going to last more than a couple of weeks. I got smoked on that. But, we haven't run hold on, we got to run Gamble real quick before we go to the Kalshi.
Well, there it is.
There it is. We're back, baby. We're so back. All right. So, government shutdown now. We are at... we're going to 40 days, basically, right? And the chart keeps going up. I'm looking at it here on Kalshi. How long will the government shutdown last? It's like it just keeps going up and to the right, Pete, like it's never going to end.
Yeah, that's it's disappointing. Obviously, it's very difficult for a lot of people out there right now. I was talking to people at the airport yesterday when I was taking off, and they're still coming to work. And I will say this: overrated is the fact that all these airports are supposedly everything is delayed and all this. I don't believe it. And I've been flying a lot in the last couple of weeks, which actually encompasses what we've been as far as how long this shutdown has been. And I can tell you this: Oliver, the amazing thing is, things are going smooth at every airport I've been. I've been in LAX. I've been in Minneapolis, St. Paul. I've been in Florida. I've been in South Carolina right now. And everywhere that I've been, I'll tell you what, it's been smooth as silk. So
yeah, the travel's smooth. The travel's certainly smooth. But no, to your point, there's got to be some ramifications. I'm looking at text for somebody I know said, look, our link didn't come through for Snap. So there's got to be real impact at some point.
Yes.
So you would think they want to get it, it's just we got to have something functioning, even if they hate each other. Just go hate each other in the office. Just go do it in the office. Like, maybe you don't need to push anything, whatever. But look, the bet at this point is, let's talk about the trading it real quick, Pete.
Yeah.
Is how do we trade this idea? Do you put it on the 50 and flip the coin? There's not much edge, it doesn't seem like at this point. 48, 46. So what? I'm just going to play blackjack on this.
I think, unfortunately, that's what you're stuck with, right? There's not a whole lot of choice here. The idea of what this is going to be and how much longer it's going to go. And I agree with you, Oliver. It's a difficult call. I don't think any of us, not only did we not want it to go this long, but we didn't expect it to go quite this long. And that's I think, what the problem is right now. And it's frustrating for all of us. It's really frustrating for the people that aren't getting the daggone checks. And they're pretty ticked right now. They still have a smile on their face, all these workers, but you know what? They're not very happy about how things are getting handled. And that's something that I don't care if it's a Republican side or the Democratic side. They need to get together to at least get something rolling, and they haven't been able to do that. They've got to do that, or else I would just say the heck with all of them. Let's change this thing up a little bit. This is awful.
Pete, it's an interesting point. The last thing I'll say that's just pseudo-political, but I'm just trying to, again, follow the logic and be fair, which is, there was originally this whole notion that they were going to fire all these federal employees, right? And then generally, kind of some of the DOJ stuff was like, debatable how many ended up getting fired. Like, did they hit those quotas? Like, we have Vivek Ramaswamy on. They were throwing out crazy numbers of the percent that they wanted to get down to. I'm pretty sure they didn't. So now, if the government shutdown's getting to a point where it's effectively like you did lay off people, then maybe the market doesn't like that. That's a point where market go, we thought maybe we were going to get away from big federal layoffs, but maybe we're not, and that could be a bit of a, an egg on the administration. Last thought?
Absolutely. I think you're right when you say that, and I think it's unfortunate that we're sitting in this position today having to talk about this at all, but it's obviously something that's going to affect the markets, and I think it's already having some ramifications already in the economy. But hopefully these guys can finally get themselves together. They act so pompously, regardless of who it is. And I think what we need to have is somebody's got to actually give a little something. And if they can get a little bit of that going on, maybe we've got a chance. But it's awfully frustrating for a lot of people right now that are having to deal with all these headaches and not getting the checks that they need to have. That's really unfortunate, and that's something that we need to get fixed.
Yeah, everybo's got to give something, right? That's like a Rolling Stones song, I think, or something. Market just blow up, or what are they watching? What are they watching behind me? What sport is on? So who's trading what? They're exploding back there.
Yeah, they are. I don't know
what they're looking at. I don't know what they're looking at. What are they looking at? Was the market's not doing anything? They must be watching some game they're watching, Pete. You're the sports guy, Pete. What are they watching? What game is on right now?
Hey, man, all the games that I know of.
What game is it?
In a minute.
I know it's nothing, but what game is it? It's a joke. They're just screwing around. It's some All right. Pete, you
That's
the
part
man.
of the floor.
Yeah, exactly, right? I'm like, come on, there's no game on. All right, so
Yeah.
next time we'll bet some sports. Good stuff
do
on
it.
the politics. Nice job, Pete. Pleasure to have you, sir.